Let's break it down. Imagine this headline. Russia wants a nuclear power plant on the moon. It sounds like science fiction, but it's also a real signal. The moon is no longer just a science project. It's turning into the next arena for long-term presence, logistics, and influence. And on the moon, there is one rule: no power, no future. I'm Imran, a Middle East-based analyst who follows global economics, tech, and geopolitics. If you like simple breakdowns that stay relevant, subscribe, because the space race is back and 2026 will accelerate it. So, what is Russia actually trying to do? Russia's space agency has been talking about deploying a lunar power station by the mid-2030s, often discussed alongside longer-term plans connected to a Russia-China lunar research station concept. This is not about a single mission. It's about building the backbone for sustained operations. It's not tomorrow, but it is a strategic direction. Now the bigger question: why nuclear? Why not solar panels? On Earth, solar is easy to scale. On the moon, it's harder. You can face long periods of darkness and extreme temperature swings. And the most valuable locations are near the lunar poles because that's where everyone wants to go for water ice. If you want drilling, continuous rover activity, reliable communications, stable thermal control, and eventually base-like operations, you need steady electricity. That's what nuclear power offers. Baseload energy, day and night for years. This is why nuclear on the moon is less of a stunt than it sounds. Think of it as infrastructure. Infrastructure is what turns exploration into presence. Without power, you don't build. You visit, take photos, run short experiments, and leave. So why is Russia pushing this now? Part of it is geopolitical signaling. Russia has deep space heritage from the Soviet era, Sputnik, Gagarin, early dominance, but in recent decades the center of gravity shifted. The United States has a long-term lunar roadmap. China has been methodical and consistent with robotic missions and long-range plans. And private industry changed launch economics with reusable rockets and faster iteration. Russia has also had setbacks, including the Luna 25 crash in 2023, which highlighted how difficult precision lunar landing and autonomous operations really are. So, a lunar nuclear power proposal is also a message. Russia wants to be seen as a country that can stay on the moon, not just talk about it. Now the phrase people keep asking, is this a new Cold War in space? In one sense, yes, but it's not like the old Cold War. This time, it's about infrastructure and standards. Who builds the first long-term power systems? Who establishes sustained operations? Who controls communications and logistics nodes? And who sets the norms for traffic, safety zones, and resource activity? The moon becomes strategic when the ability to stay creates leverage. And it's not just Russia. This is a multiplayer race. The United States has also studied lunar nuclear power for years, because returning to the moon is not only about planting a flag. It's about building capabilities that can support long-duration activity. China is also pushing toward a sustained lunar future. That's why the moon is becoming a competitive environment and more multipolar than people think. Now let's address the controversial part: nuclear in space. Space treaties ban nuclear weapons in orbit and on celestial bodies, but nuclear power is treated differently. It is permitted under international safety principles if it's properly managed and not weaponized. So it's not automatically illegal, but politically it's sensitive. Even a civilian reactor can raise suspicion because nuclear infrastructure triggers security concerns and dual-use fears. That means a lunar reactor proposal can accelerate competition even without any militarization. So why does the moon matter so much in the first place? 3 reasons. First, logistics. A sustained lunar presence is a stepping stone for Mars. You test life support, construction, robotics, and long-duration operations in a harsh environment. Second, resources. The key idea is in situ resource utilization, meaning using local materials. Water ice can support oxygen production and basic life support needs. Lunar soil can be processed to create building materials like landing pads and protective shielding. Power is what makes those processes scalable. Third, rules. The first countries that establish stable operations often shape the operating norms in practice. Traffic coordination, safety zones, communication standards, and how resource activity is handled. In real life, rules are influenced by whoever is actually there, consistently, for years. Now the practical question, can Russia actually deliver? This is hard. A lunar fission system is not a quick bolt-on. You need reliable heavy launches, autonomous deployment, thermal control, shielding, long-duration stability, and a serious logistics chain. Even the United States treats lunar nuclear power as a major development challenge, so Russia's timeline is ambitious. Possible, but not guaranteed. There's also the partnership factor. Much of Russia's long-term lunar messaging is linked to cooperation with China. That can help, but it also means Russia's lunar future becomes tied to the politics and priorities of that relationship. So what should you watch in 2026 and beyond? Don't focus on hype. Focus on milestones. Watch whether stable funding and real contracts show up. Watch prototypes and testing milestones. Watch launch capability and cadence. Watch whether China accelerates its lunar timeline, because that can force others to speed up too. And watch whether US policy pushes for earlier or larger lunar power deployments, because that would be a major competition signal. Here's the big takeaway. The next era of space is not about who lands first. It's about who stays. And on the moon, staying requires energy. That's why a nuclear plant on the moon matters. It signals that the moon is becoming a place where infrastructure equals influence. Now I want your view. Do you think lunar nuclear power is a normal next step for exploration or the start of a dangerous strategic race? Write your answer in the comments. And if you want more breakdowns like this through 2026, subscribe, like, and share. Let's break it down again next time.